Good morning, everyone, at this bright and early Wednesday morning at 8 a.m. I want to thank everyone who, wow, got here even earlier. So impressive. I'd like to call the Orlando MetroPlan Board meeting of July 12th to order. At this time, I'm asking you to please silence your phones and electronic devices. In addition, I'm asking that everyone speak directly into the microphone. By all, you are seasoned enough to know the red button to make sure that the audience can hear you, and also that Rachel can also hear you as she's taking notes. We'll have two opportunities for public comment. In the beginning, it'll be based on action items, and in the end, it'll be open items. Public comments of a general nature will be at the end. Anyone attending today's meeting in person and who wishes to make a public comment is asked to please complete a speaker's card. These are available at the reception desk. I'm going to ask Commissioner Zimbauer to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance this morning.
Please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So I want to thank everyone for joining us this morning. I know it's early and it's required in all of us to alter our morning plans to get this meeting done. I want to make a point that we'll be going over some voting items. We will not forsake have presentation items so that we can get out in a timely manner. At this time, I'd like to welcome Mr. Tim Weishire, the alternate representative for GOA this morning. Thank you for being with us. And the urban boundaries and appointment. The board has heard a presentation on the urban boundaries and board apportionment that must be approved later this year. Apportionment scenarios will be presented and discussed by the executive committee before bringing it back to the full board for approval. The executive committee will be meeting on Tuesday, August 15th at 10 a.m. to discuss the board apportionment options that resulted from the 2020 census. I want to go ahead and talk about the MetroPlan Orlando safety moment. Earlier this year, we started and the chair's announcements with a safety to end the year with the chair's announcement with a safety message. Safety should be a concern to all of us. This is especially important as we begin to work on all the safety action plans for the entire region, including the individual Vision Zeros that are taking place, I know, within the city of Orlando and also Orange County. This month's safety moment is brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. This 30-second PSA is part of our speed prevention campaign taking place right now from July 10th through the 31st. Rachel's going to run a quick 30-second video for all of us to look at. Miss Rachel.
This guy was driving way over the speed limit. Look at the damage. This guy was going a lot over the speed limit. Look at the damage. This guy was going a little over the speed limit. Look at the damage.
By the way, I wanted to take a moment to welcome Rachel in this position this morning too. So thank you, Rachel, for doing that. So remember, speeding catches up with you and can cause damage that's beyond repair. When you drive over the speed limit, even a little bit, you put yourself and everyone on the road in danger. And thank you for all of that. Thank you for the video. That was phenomenal. At this time, I want to recognize our executive director, Gary Huttman, for his announcements. Gary, you're recognized.
Good morning, Chair and board members. I also want to thank everyone for adjusting their schedules and being here early this morning. It's this meeting has been a challenge in the past few years, so I appreciate your cooperation. We have several alternates with us this morning. Commissioner Sheehan, I understand, is here virtually representing the city of Orlando in place of Mayor Dyer. Lake Mary Commissioner Jordan Smith, who is the vice chair of the Municipal Advisory Committee, I believe is also joining us virtually this morning in place of Mayor Dallas. And then we have a new alternate. Tim Weishire has been designated as the alternate for GOA. And Tim also chairs the Orlando Executive Airport Board. So he is here representing them in place of Carson Good this morning. So thank you for being here. Last month, I did introduce Rachel to the board and to everyone that was here. Today and leading up to today's meeting, she and Lisa have been working together, kind of cross-training on board services and items that are important to us. So they're doing some providing staff support assistance to the board. So Rachel today will be filling in on everything that Lisa normally does. I want to congratulate the city of St. Cloud on their RAISE grant for the 10th Street Complete Streets project. This grant will help them to fund some of the improvements from the Complete Street study that we completed for them last year. It will fund project development and environment, the PD&E activities for the reconstruction of approximately 4 miles of 10th Street from US 192 to Narcoossee Road. Some news about Mateer Harbor. They have merged with another law firm, and that merger is effective August 1st. The law firm is Dinsmore Shoal. Further information on this, as well as a request to transfer our agreement for legal services, much as we did with Peebles, Smith and Matthews when that contract was transferred to Gray Robinson 2 years ago. That will be on the September board agenda. And if there are any board questions specifically about that, Jay can answer those either this morning or at the September board meeting. I want to welcome our newest staff member, Adriana Rodriguez. Adriana is a professional engineer, and she joined us on July 5th. She'll be working with Alex and his staff on transportation planning studies. Then you have supplemental folders that are in front of you this morning, include a number of items. I'll just briefly state what those are. First, you have a copy of the public comments that were submitted on our TIP public hearing. You have a save the date for Mobility Week. That is taking place this year from October 27th through November 4th. There's an announcement for some safety improvements, a public meeting for safety improvements on US 192 in Kissimmee. There's a legislative wrap up from Secretary Perdue, and then finally the DOT's modal mover report, which is just a news report that comes out of their modal development office. Madam Chair, that completes the announcements this morning.
Thank you, Gary. Do we have any questions or comments for Gary? And when I asked people to silence their phone, I forgot to talk to myself, so I apologize for that interruption. At this time, I want to welcome our FDOT Secretary John Tyler. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Good morning, and thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, everyone. It's great to see everybody today, and I also want to thank you for your flexibility. The business that you're doing today, it's very important for Central Florida. It's also very important for the entire state. So I do really appreciate getting up early so that we can conduct this business, and it's really good. So thank you very much. Two things. I know you all have a busy morning ahead of you. But two things I did want to update the group on. The first is moving Florida forward. I know that there's a lot of people interested in that with the I-4 corridor being a signature component of that program. The state is currently going through the process. This time of year, we update all of our cost estimates. So even those 20 projects that were included in the Moving Florida Forward program, they go through that similar process. Our intention is to deliver all 20 of those projects. We're putting together a financing plan to be able to do that. It's going to take us a little bit more time, probably going to be sometime in the fall when we have more concrete details as to how all that's going to work. But specifically with I-4, in addition to updating our cost estimates, which we do every time this year, we're also updating our traffic projections. And since we're planning on extending the express lanes, we're also updating our toll revenue forecast, which will go towards helping finance that project as well. So don't take our lack of detail to mean that we are not actively moving forward with those projects. We're buying right of way, we're getting things geared up, but more information to come on the Moving Florida Forward program. So very excited about that. And then the last thing that I wanted to touch on was safety. Appreciate the safety message. If you recall, the last time I was here, I spoke about our distracted driving campaign that we were going to launch in the month of July. We kicked that off on May the 31st, and we had at that kickoff, we had 5 TV stations that came to report that story. And over the course of that first day, they ran 52 stories across Central Florida with over 9 million impressions. And it didn't end on just that day. The next 2 days, there was another 23 stories that were continued to run. And so it really kind of firmly, reinforced my belief that, our media partners, they're thirsty for stories like this. They're going to be a willing participant. If we're willing to go beyond, think beyond infrastructure as transportation professionals, try to reach, the people, the residents, the visitors, the travelers here in Central Florida, we can reach them with a message of driver behavior and how we can change that to improve safety. So I'm encouraged by that. We continued through the rest of the month. We had another 8 events across Central Florida, really focusing on that distracted driving. Kind of our core message was, just drive, put on your do not disturb and just drive. And that was our focus for the month of June. So we wrapped that campaign up. We're going to be monitoring the results, come back in about a year and kind of see how did that work? Did we make a difference? And then what can we do as next steps specifically with that kind of focus group and with that message? But the next thing that we're doing, and that goes right along with your safety message, is speeding. So we have Operation Slowdown, which is a multi-state effort. It's Operation Southern Slowdown. So that kind of gives you which states are going to be involved. So it's Florida, Georgia, South Carolina.
Yeah.
It certainly does. It certainly does. But this is an effort that's being led by law enforcement agencies from those various states. FDOT is supporting FHP in that regard. And on Monday, July 17th, we're going to be having a kickoff over at Daytona International Speedway, kind of kicking off that Operation Southern Slowdown focus for the month, really focusing on speeding and trying to control those excessive speeds out on the roadway. So if your organizations are interested in kind of picking up on that story and sharing it as part of your social media, please let me know, and we can get you some more information on that regard, because I do think that we can make a difference if we're all working together towards, some of these fundamental behaviors that we're seeing out on the roadways. So with that, I'm willing to take any questions.
Thank you, Secretary Tyler. Actually going to follow up the PSAs that we just saw. Those are available for us to share via social media and things like that.
Yes, absolutely.
Awesome. And that kickoff day in Daytona, when did you say that was?
It's Monday, July 17th at 10 a.m.
Oh. Wonderful. Are there any questions or comments for Secretary Tyler? Okay, seeing none. Thank you very much. You said you'll also be giving us an update on the express lanes. I noticed that there's more activity on those. I myself is one.
Yes.
I mean, you kind of now start making decisions. Am I going to be there in time? Is there too much traffic, peak hours? So
Yes, the express lane, the traffic in the express lanes continues to grow. We are monitoring it literally every day. I get reports on it every month. So our transition, we're still in our introductory static toll, 50 cents per toll segment.
yes.
One of the best deals in Central Florida, especially with the governor's 50% toll savings, to go along with that. So it's a great deal. So it is attracting a lot of demand, and that demand is continuing to grow. It is going to be time to transition over to what we call dynamic tolling in our near future. So we're still looking at the data. We're going to let the data and the travelers demand their choices going to be our guide to win that decision, to be able to change over to dynamic toll, but it's coming soon.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Secretary
you.
Tyler. Now, I'm going to call Ms. Rachel Frederick to do our roll call and confirmation of quorum. Ms. Frederick, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Arrington. Bates. Bonilla.
Here.
Castano. Gomez Cordero.
Here.
Demings.
Here.
Sheehan Fadaya.
Here.
Smith Fidaulis. Wise Hire. Thank you. Wise Hire for Good.
Here.
Green.
Here.
Grebe. Jaina.
Here.
Lockhart.
Here.
Moore. Nelson.
Here.
Ortiz. Uribe.
Here.
Wilson.
Here.
Woodruff,
Here.
Zembauer.
Here.
Madam Chair, that concludes the roll call and we do have a quorum.
Fantastic, Ms. Frederick. Thank you very much. We're going to move on to our agenda review. Mr. Huntman, you're recognized.
Madam Chair, the only, the only change to the agenda is in staffing. And because Mayor Dallas is not here, we have Sarah Larson will be giving back.
Okay, fantastic. Now we're going to move on to committee reports. We're going to start with the Municipal Advisory Committee. Sarah Larson, thank you for being with us this morning, and we're anticipating your report.
Good morning, Chair Uribe and board members. My name is Sarah Larson, and I am the MetroPlan staff liaison to the Municipal Advisory Committee. Because Chair Dallas and Vice Chair Smith were unable to be in the room this morning, I'll be giving a short summary. The MAC met last Thursday, July 6th at 9:30 in the morning. Chair Mayor Dallas presided over the meeting. The MAC approved the June meeting minutes. The committee then approved the Transportation Improvement Program for fiscal year 2023, 2024 through fiscal year 2027, 2028. The committee also approved the prioritized project list for fiscal year 2028 through 2038. The MAC received 4 informational presentations on topics covering the Safe Streets and Roads for All Grant Award update, a presentation from Lorene Bobo of FDOT on distracted driving, MetroPlan Orlando Transportation Systems Management and Operations Master Plan Status Update, and FDOT State Road 426 Aloma Avenue Coalition Process. The next MAC meeting is September 7th, and that concludes my report.
Thank you, Ms. Larson. Do we have any questions or comments for Ms. Larson? Seeing none, thank you so much for your report. We're going to move on to our Community Advisory Committee. Mr. Campbell, you're recognized. Good morning.
Thank you and good morning, Madam Chair and members of the board. The Community Advisory Committee met on June 28th and recommended approval of the draft Transportation Improvement Program and prioritized project lists. CAC members got an update on the Safe Streets and Roads for All grant that will be used to create the region's Vision Zero Safety Plan. We also heard a report from Ms. Lorene Bobo of FDOT District 5 Safety Office about distracted driving. Members had several questions as usual, and Ms. Bobo was fantastic. She said she would follow up with us on things that we did not have a response to then. Members also heard updates from FDOT on State Road 426 Aloma Coalition Process and MetroPlan Orlando's TSMO Master Plan. We're hoping to have a workshop in September to learn more about Master Plan and TSMO's technologies in Central Florida. The next meeting for CAC will be on August 23rd. And Madam Chair, that concludes my report.
Thank you very much, Mr. Campbell. Are there any questions or comments for Mr. Campbell? Seeing none, thank you so much for your report. Ms. Frederick, I just wanted to make a point. Commissioner Christine Moore has arrived.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Now we're going to move on to the Technical Advisory Committee. Mr. Wharton, good morning.
Met in person with a quorum present last month on June 30th. Josh Gervais, the TAC Vice Chair, presided over this meeting in my absence, and the committee reviewed and approved meeting minutes from the May 19th, 2023 TAC meeting. The committee also voted to recommend this board adopt both the draft Transportation Improvement Program for the fiscal years 2023-24 through 27-28, and the draft prioritized project list for fiscal years 2028 through 38. Committee also heard presentations on the update of the Safe Streets and Roads for All grant, the FDOT focus on distracted driving, the State Road 426 Aloma Avenue Coalition Process and status on the project itself, an update on MetroPlan's TMSO Master Plan, and an update on the FDOT Functional Classification Process. The TAC received one public comment from Ben Robinson, a Winter Park resident representing Fix 426, a citizen organization working alongside FDOT to improve State Road 426. Mr. Robinson requested that a document of the organization's comments and concerns be included in the TAC minutes. The next TAC meeting is next month on August 25th at 10 a.m. And if I may, Madam Chair, I'd like to thank the TAC Vice Chair, Josh DeBree from Osceola County, for running the past two TAC meetings while I was out. And also a nod to Mr. Hutman and his staff for making that transition seamless. And that's my report.
That's fantastic. Thank you for the comment. Do we have any questions or comments for Mr. Wharton? Seeing none, thank you so much. And we are now going to move on to the Transportation System Management Operations Advisory Committee. Mr. Smith, we're happy to have you back, but your shoes were filled. Don't worry.
Thank you. Good morning, Madam Chairwoman, members of the board. The Transportation System Management Operation TSMO Advisory Committee met on June 30th, 2023. The following items were approved. The minutes for the May 19th TSMO meeting, and the committee approved recommendations to adopt the fiscal year 22-23 through 26-27 Transportation Improvement Program and the fiscal year 28-38 prioritized project list. TSMO had two presentations, and the first one was from Mr. David Williams of VHB, gave him a presentation on the FDOT's District 5-year TSMO plan. And also we had a very good presentation from Emmanuel Posadas. He gave a presentation on the City of Gainesville's TSMO Resiliency Program. The next TSMO meeting will be held on August 25th at 8:30 a.m. And that concludes my report, Madam Chairwoman.
Sounds like you guys had a great meeting. Do you have any questions or comments for Mr. Smith? Oh, seeing none, thank you very much for your report. We're going to move on to public comments on action items. Comments on action items can be made in two ways: in person at a meeting or via Zoom with the raise hand feature. These action item comments are only based on the agenda coming up. Public comments on the general nature will be at the end of the meeting. I would like to ask Ms. Frederick, do we have any public comment requests?
We do not have any virtual comments or any other comments, Madam
So
Chair.
neither virtually nor in person.
Correct.
Okay, thank you very much. We're going to move on to the consent agenda. If you all could if I could have a motion in a second.
Motion to approve
Second.
consent agenda items A, B, C, and D.
Second more.
So we have a motion by Commissioner Zimbauer, a second by Commissioner Moore. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously. We're going to move on to our other action items, which is approval of the FY 2023-2024 through FY 27-28 Transportation Improvement Plan. Mr. Jason Sartori will be giving us this presentation. Please note, this will have a roll call vote. Mr. Sartori, thank you. Good morning, and you are recognized.
Thank you. Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the board. My name is Jason Sartorio. This morning, I'll be presenting the fiscal year 2023-2024, the 2027-28 TIP draft for adoption. In your agenda packets, you'll find a link to the document. And additionally, in your supplement folder, you will find the comments we received during the public comment period. The purpose of the TIP is to identify all federal and state funded transportation projects in the next 5 years. It includes locally funded projects and Central Florida Expressway projects for informational purposes, and it is updated on an annual basis. TIP is made up of 11 sections, and since the draft presentation, Central Florida Expressway Authority projects have been added to the toll road section of the TIP. This brings our overall project total to 526 projects within the 11 sections of the TIP. As you can see, we have a lot of projects going on in the region over the next 5 years. We have a total of 312 federal, state, and turnpike funded projects with an estimated $4.1 billion in funding. Based on the region's significant population size, we receive additional federal funds, which we can use for off-system state highway system projects. And within the TIP, we have 49 MetroPlan Orlando funded projects with an estimated $147 million in funding. And the figure on the slide breaks this down by section of the TIP. On June 21st, 2023, we hosted a virtual public meeting from 11:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. We had 62 participants. We also had 111 views on the TIP meeting recording posted to our YouTube channel so far. As in years prior, we anticipate this number will continue to grow as people have time to view the document on YouTube. Topics of questions and comments we received included transit needs in the region, desire to connect trail networks, bicycle and pedestrian safety in Orange County and City of Orlando specific projects. And we also received feedback from Osceola County, City of Castleberry, and City of Longwood, and their input has been incorporated into the document. So far, we have received unanimous recommendations of approval from the Community Advisory Committee, Technical Advisory Committee, Municipal Advisory Committee, and the TISMO Advisory Committee. That being said, unless there are any questions, we're asking for your motion of approval to adopt the fiscal year 2023-24, 2027-2028 SWIP. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I do want to open it up for any questions or comments. Commissioner Gomez Cordero? Yeah, no, oh, okay. I did have one quick question. On your attendance, you said you guys had 62 participants and 111 views. How is that being promoted? Because that seems like, I mean, when you look at ours as a region, it's really low. I mean, just curious, and I'm not faulting you, but what could we do better to help certain groups that would have an interest in this and things like that? Just curious.
So I know we promoted on all of our social media channels, and I believe it goes out in our monthly email blast. And over the next few months, now that we got everything finished, we're going to go back and look and think of new ways possibly to host our public meeting in the future.
Yeah, and maybe we as a board who have our own following and sharing methods could also assist in that, just to be nice to see it a little bit, 0.001% of our population or
course.
something. Okay, Commissioner Wilson, you're recognized.
Thank you. Yeah, I was going to say to your point, even, individually, but also organizationally, right? I don't know if I've ever seen anything come from Orange County Communications through. So just to have that link to all the larger umbrellas and smaller umbrellas, I think would be helpful. It's kind of the old-fashioned communication tree used in virtual sense.
Yeah, and this is not a criticism. This is just how can we improve it? Okay,
Mhm.
so thank you very much. I'm going to call Ms. Frederick to do a roll call vote. Oh,
Motion
oh.
approved.
Sorry. Yes, motion for approval. Second by Grebe. Yeah, I actually thought it was the other way around. Commissioner Grebe made the motion. Commissioner Zimbauer would be the second. Is that okay?
Perfect.
Okay, she was officially the one that first brought it up. Thank you very much. And we're going to move on to a roll call. Make sure that you're heard or your red button, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Arrington,
Yay.
Bates, Bonilla,
Yay.
Castano, Gomez Cordero.
Yes.
Sheehan Fadaya,
Yes.
Smith Fidaulis,
Yes.
Wise Hire for Good,
Yay.
Green, Grebe,
Yes.
Jaina,
Yes.
Lockhart,
Yes.
Moore,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Ortiz, Uribe,
Yes.
Wilson,
Yes.
Woodruff, Zembauer.
Yeah.
Madam Chair,
Fantastic.
that concludes the roll call vote.
Madam Chair, she skipped over me.
Oh, I
Mayor
did.
Dyer, Mayor Deming, excuse me.
I'm gonna vote aye.
Excuse me, I apologize.
Well, at least you remembered that you guys skipped. So thank you very much, Mayor. All right, so it passes unanimously. Thank you very much, Mr. Sartorio. We are now going to move on to the approval of the FY 2028 through 2038 prioritized project list. Mr. Slade Downs, you're recognized and good morning.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the board. Slade Downs, Transportation Planner here at MetroPlan Orlando. Be walking you through the final run through of the prioritized project list. So a quick recap on the ins and outs of the PPL. Plan is updated annually. It links the projects from our 25-year Metropolitan Transportation Plan to our 5-year Transportation Improvement Program. The TIP focuses on the next 5 years, whereas the PPL focuses on the decade following. So these are the funding programs and priority lists in the PPL. Each has a one sheet that explains the funding program as well as a detailed project list table that catalogs all of the projects in each of those funding programs. A PDF of the prioritized project list is included in your agenda packets today, where you can use that as reference if you'd like to look into any of those again. At our last meeting, gave a deep dive on the PPL and asked for input and feedback. Generally from not just you all, but also our advisory committees. We received some questions from some of our partners and committee members on general PPL process, the ins and outs of our new critical sidewalk gaps program, as well as some project-specific questions from some of our partners. A perfect example, during our last board meeting, we had a redundancy pointed out to us. There was a redundant record for a project along State Road 50, East Colonial Drive, and we were able to correct that. So thank you to Commissioner Zimbauer for pointing that out to us. This is just a good example of the kind of feedback we got and were able to incorporate into the final version. Additionally, during the feedback round, we received updates on projects from our partners that had completed certain projects independently of us, and we were able to remove those from the list. But basically, the bottom line is that there were no changes to project rankings overall. And with that, keeping it short and sweet, I'm going to request a motion for adoption of the 2038 prioritized project list as presented. And with that, include that it was passed favorably and unanimously by all of the advisory committees. So with that, I'd be happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Downs. I'd like to open up to any questions or comments that anybody from the board, Mr. Downs. Commissioner Moore, anything that was of interest to you? It seems like you were looking at that list. Okay. All right. So at this time, I've got a motion for approval from Commissioner Zimbauer and a second from Commissioner Gomez Cordero. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Downs.
Thank you.
We're going to move on to informational items in your packet for acknowledgement, and this is an action item. If I could have a motion for approval.
Motion to approve.
Okay, we have a motion.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Lockhart, a second by Commissioner Zimbauer. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It passes unanimously. I do want to bring to your attention informational items G and H. US pedestrian deaths reach a 40-year high article. It's a difficult, fact. And also a New Jersey city achieved traffic deaths in 4 years with quick, high impact ideas. There was also an NPR story recently where they talk about from 2017 to now, we've gone up almost 700% or just an exorbitant amount of continued pedestrian deaths. So this is some great information that was included in your informational package and worth taking a look. Mr. Huntman, you're looking at me like you want to say something, or I wasn't sure.
Well, I do want to say that I'm pleased with the board members' attention to those two articles. They were both presented to me by Eric of our staff, asking if they could be included in the board's packages. And I felt that they were very timely, given all of the discussion that we're having on safety right now, that we included as a safety moment in every board agenda. Secretary Tyler talks about safety whenever he gets a chance. So I just felt that they were very timely.
Yeah, thank you. And I encourage, if you get a chance to look up that NPR story, because it's actually a pedestrian perspective where they're concerned when they're crossing. They're just not assuming crosswalks are safe because of distracted driving. And it's really sobering in a sense when you hear folks who are used to, walking as their main mode of transportation, especially in condensed city areas. So it's interesting. And I want to recognize Commissioner Lockhart.
Thank you. Tagging on to conversations I think that we've had over the last couple of months, when you continue to do the same thing to mitigate a problem and the problem continues to increase, at some point you have to question whether what we're doing is the right thing to do. And I love the bike walk Central Florida thing where you get out there and you stop people and you tell them, hey, you're driving too fast, or hey, you didn't stop all the way. And I've sat through many of those in Seminole County. But the data doesn't lie. And if the number of pedestrian deaths are continuing to increase, then is there something additional we need to be doing? Is there something different we need to be doing? I just continue to bring it up because we talk about the definition of insanity, and I'd love to know if there's a work group thinking, brainstorming, or are we just good with the safety minute and talking about the stats, but not changing what we're doing to impact the data? That's the only reason I continue to bring it up.
Well, Secretary Tyler, if you don't mind, I'm going to step in. At our last meeting, Lorraine Bobo actually did a phenomenal presentation, and it is a continual work in progress because there's partial driver, education, but there's also pedestrian education. I'm going to take, for instance, a road in my district, Orange Blossom Trail 441. We have speed bumps along a major, FDOT highway to stop it. They've added cement balls, and pedestrians still cross at non-crossing areas. So now something completely unusual, they've put up fences to where you can't even cross on the median. And I'm going to take pictures, even though I should be driving. So I'm going to be careful how I do this, but they're now walking angular around the fences. So, and I'm very involved with Emily Hanna and what she does, and she does amazing education. People don't even realize some of the pedestrian rules, even bicycling rules and so forth. But we've had her do more than just that. We do safety helmets for kids on bicycles, for kids on skateboards. I mean, I think it's collaborative effort. I'm not representing them, but I just know my experience with working with them. It's not just, trying to do these sting operations. But Lorraine Bobo, and I got to tell you, she's so good because I looked down at my lap and I thought about her because she says everything is a distraction. Her message is so powerful and passionate. But if you would like to comment on this, Secretary Tyler, and then I guess I'll acknowledge you also, but Secretary, did you want to say something?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, this is a great topic, and it's something that at least for our 10 years in these organizations, we're going to be dealing with this challenge, for a long time. I do think that it's a long-term challenge, but we're always looking for new solutions, for new strategies. But the commissioner's got a great point. We do have to keep looking for what's going to be more effective than what was yesterday. And what's compounding our challenge here in Central Florida is we're so popular. So many people are moving to Central Florida, and so many people are coming to visit Central Florida that it is a tremendous challenge of trying to figure out, how do we reach everyone? How do we start changing behaviors? How do we get out the most effective countermeasures in the most effective places? It is going to be a continuous challenge for us. So we should always be looking for what is going to be better tomorrow.
I agree. And I don't know, Gary, if there is an interest in the board, I certainly would want to be involved in. Commissioner Lockhart. I'll recognize you in a minute, Ms. Bonilla. Like, there could be a separate conversation where we as electeds who represent certain areas can see trends, maybe give some input to Lorraine, give some input to Emily. I don't know if that's necessarily an avenue that we could do to assist. I'm just seeing more and more poor pedestrian trends is what I'm recognizing when I see people in wheelchairs going along the road and so forth. So I want to recognize Commissioner Bonilla, and then Gary, I'll come back to you if you don't mind. Commissioner Bonilla.
Right, well, it's like the flow of water, right? I know, like, traffic engineers have explained that the easiest flows where people are gonna go, where the cars are gonna go. And it's convenience, right, to still walk that way and then go around the fence or whatever. I'm wondering, are there any signs? Because, trying to get the message education out, right? We do these bike walk events and stuff. We do these PSAs. But at that spot, is there anything educational? Is there a sign there saying, for your safety, do not cross here? Or I don't know. I'm kind of asking. And
Yeah.
There are signs.
There are signs. We've had events and we've worked with law enforcement. At least I'm sorry. She had a great comment, but there are signs. We've had events. We've worked with law enforcement where instead of ticketing, they're like telling, and even with pedestrians, like, hey, no, not here. So I don't believe that anyone's not in support of this. I think that we should be talking about it. Maybe there's something that's being overlooked. Maybe there's something that could be added. I would be interested. I don't know, Commissioner Lockhart, Commissioner Medina, if you would be interested in having a dialogue, and if not in person, via Zoom, where we can have a discussion on.
I think, not to give our schools another mandate, and Mr. Weishire and I served on the school boards together, our respective school boards together at the same time. And so anytime something from Tallahassee gave us something else to do, we'd all go, oh. But it seems like it's such a critical need at this point that perhaps the legislature needs to talk about having some type of pedestrian safety mandated component in either physical education classes or some type of class at the elementary school level would be appropriate. You know, we mandated telling time by analog, and we mandated cursive, and we mandated a lot of good things. It seems like this is a multi-generational, multicultural situation, and I don't know where else we could reach that many people moving forward other than our school system. That's just the first thought that comes to mind. And all my former fellow school board members are now shooting me.
That's a great idea.
Anyway, happy to brainstorm with anyone on the topic,
Yeah.
because I feel like we just keep having the same conversation.
The multicultural is a very interesting point that people aren't accustomed to. There's language differences and so forth. In my area, we see a lot. When I did a ride along and saw a pedestrian die, it was a Mexican descent who was on a bike carrying groceries, and the Papa John's delivery guy hit him. So those are tragedies that you still see. I want to recognize Commissioner Zimbauer, Commissioner Bonilla, and then I go back to you. Thank you, Alex.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't necessarily disagree, but I think this boils down to is changing human behavior. And I think since the beginning of the time that human behavior has tried to be changed by many faceted points, from education, law enforcement. I think it's going to take time. I think, like Secretary Tyler said, the struggle with the concept of different people coming and going from the community is one, education is another. I think it's been one of our legislative priorities with Tallahassee on maybe putting some more teeth in the enforcement mechanisms. All those things are fine and good, but at the end of the day, if the human does not respond to any of those, it's tough to change that behavior. So I think we should continue to have dialogue and find new and creative ideas, but understand at the end of the day, we're trying to change human behavior. Yeah.
Commissioner Wilson.
I think it's interesting because I believe that the focus, even in this discussion, has been about changing pedestrian behavior. And it just, to me, typifies the fact that our cultural issues we have here, and I mean us as, I think, a community in especially the South, because we had so much land for so long, is that we have built for cars. We have not built for people. So the idea that we're continuing to focus on the pedestrians who have the least amount of options as the problem versus the drivers who should be actually zooming on a expressway, on a larger toll road. And maybe if there's a residence across the street from a grocery store or school, that should be a smaller, slower roadway. And that culture of building for cars, that is us. And I know it's you talk about something that was done for a very long time. So to undo it and to look at everything differently. But even this discussion right now of mandating education in schools or trying to look at fences for pedestrians, but why aren't we fencing the cars? Why aren't they going slower? Why aren't we making them get on the expressway to get through these residential areas if they don't live there? So I do think that onus is on us to look for really different solutions on our car culture. If you talk to engineers in Amsterdam, they would think this was a crazy conversation. So I do think that we have to make sure we're not reinventing the wheel and look for places around the world that have had to deal with density and you know the eating up of land way before we had to worry about it here in the United States, or especially in the South.
Thank you. I do want to note on 441, it was vehicles first. And that's why it's probably one of the only streets in the state of Florida that has speed bumps, soon to be 5 miles, and a reduction of speed, which is from 45 now to 35, up to 30 in certain areas. So, you know, that is happening. Commissioner Gomez Cordero, did you have okay. I'm going to go to Alex. You recognize.
Sure. I just want a quick point of information, and it really speaks to Commissioner Lockhart's point. The Safe Streets for All grant that we received, that we've discussed, really the intent of it is to address the discussion that we're having here today, systematically, holistically, getting to the heart of the issue. What we've done in the past, has it worked? Has it moved the needle? Do we need to do more? Both on the infrastructure side, on the planning and engineering side, but also on the educational behavioral change side. And the safe systems or the Vision Zero plans that are going to be prepared that you will definitely be core and a part of is to get us there, to identify those next steps. What is the action plan? What do we need to pursue legislatively? What can you do already as decision makers, within your ordinance power already? So it's that real full exploration of the transportation system, but also ordinance, land development code, building code that influences folks' behavior. So I will say, and we're going to be working, you'll be hearing a lot about it here as a board for our regional plan, but individually, the counties will also, we're going to be extending those resources to each of the counties. I'm actually going to be working with the Seminole County staff, be reaching out to them next week to start that scoping process. So the good news is your timing is right, and your feedback will certainly be a part of building that Seminole County and the regional Vision Zero action plan.
Thank you. And I know Orange County has already started that dialogue way in advance. Mr. Hutman, was there anything you wanted to add to the conversation?
Well, I was just going to add that we do have, and I'll certainly talk among the staff after this meeting today. But we do have what we call the vulnerable road users working groups that get together and discuss safety issues from a user standpoint. And that information can be made available and discussed at the board, at future board meetings, as well as we get into the Safe Streets and Roads for All work.
Fantastic. Thank you, Mr. Hutman, and thank you for the dialogue and the conversation. Commissioners, I want to move on to public comment in the general nature. Do we have any requests for public comment, either in person or virtually, Ms. Frederick?
We have received neither.
Okay, fantastic. So we've already had a hefty conversation, but are there any other additional board comments at this time from anyone? Commissioner Zimbauer?
Yes, I propose if we do this again at 8 o'clock in the morning, breakfast be served.
Noted, notice. I attempted to, but it didn't quite work out. So our next meeting will be September 13th, 2023 at 9 a.m. and we are adjourned. Thank you. Hey, I thought you were bringing donuts.
Yeah.